Hello Saber fans, this is James speaking, and I'm coming back to you again from my Saber install station. Just giving you a look at what it's supposed to look like after it's been cleaned and organized. We got a few things sitting out here that some of you may or may not recognize, so I'll go over them. This is a mini heat gun for the shrink wrap, or shrink tubing. I also use this to heat up the interior of the Saber when I'm trying to get all the glue out of the interior that Ultra Sabers puts in for holding stuff in place. It works really well. It only goes up to about 350 to 400 degrees. So, I mean, it's perfect for indoor use. It's also really inexpensive given what, you're using it for. This middle tool right here is called a center hole punch. If you're like me and you're using a drill press or a drill, this puts the center hole into the place so that you don't have to worry about your drill bit slipping. We've got various sizes of wrenches, of grips and strippers. This is possibly one of my favorite things, is a good grip, Gorilla Grip hex wrench set. It's all the stuff, all the different sizes of hex wrench in one little tool, because if you've ever worked on a Saber, you know that there's about 4 different size hex nuts that you could possibly be working with. We have switches, recharge ports, and a few odds and ends to the ends. All of our battery stuff, one random board that should be thrown out because it's burned out, and any electronical stuff is in there. All the spare LEDs that I have are in here. As you can see, there's quite a number of them because I always like to change out the LEDs that I usually get. As you all know, I got a lot of blue ones, so I usually will just do an install on something other than a blue LED. The shrink tubing, I have 2 different sets. I have a colored and a non-colored. I use the non-colored when I'm doing shrink tubing where it's small and has to be set up. For those of us who do a lot of installing, we have the tap and die set. Tap and dies are what you use to put the bite marks into the sides of the screw hole so that you can screw in stuff. And we have something I just acquired recently, which is the step drill bits. These work great if you're trying to put the right size hole to the right size part. They're not terribly difficult to understand. Each little notch is a different size hole, and it goes down in amounts. You can make either a guarded switch hole or just a plain switch hole. It doesn't really make a difference which one. All you have to do is stop drilling kind of halfway through the hole, and you'll have one with the metal kind of halfway drilled, halfway not. Then we have various pommels, various hilts, chassis, that kind of stuff. E6000 is a special kind of glue that I like to use when I'm doing stuff. I had to reapply a speaker. As you can see, it has a lot of the E6000 coming out of it. I use that because it's actually a very strong modeling glue. It's guaranteed to not give way, and I can tell you, this is just being held by the speaker. The whole Saber is suspended, and it doesn't feel at all like it's going to give way. Yeah, so other than that, if anyone has any questions about builds or they'd like to see something specific, like what we do with various parts or how I do any of the connections that I use my builds for, let me know. As you can see in this, we've got one quick connect, and this one's actually got the the shrink tubing around parts of it. Right here, it's the clear shrink tubing, not the colored ones. I always like to make sure the parts are shrink tube, the connections are shrink tube before I go any further with them. But first, you always check them so you don't have to go back and open them up again. A lot of my sabers I use JST connections instead of going straight to board. Some people prefer going straight to board. I would prefer using the JST connectors just because if I ever want and had to take it apart and fix something in the board, I can take it apart without taking apart the whole board. So there you go. It's pretty much all self-explanatory. One thing that I cannot do without is the stool. Now, the other thing is this. If you're using a table like mine where it's got this kind of cloth here, you can go to a Home Depot or Lowe's or, you know, any kind of supply shop and pick up a couple of these pieces of slate for, you know, maybe $7 or $8. All they are is a 1x1 square foot of slate each. One has the soldering equipment, one's got this place where you actually do the soldering. It's perfect for this kind of work. It levels everything out very nicely, and it keeps you from burning down your house. If many of you who don't know, I live up in the frozen north, and doing this outside just isn't plausible. So, anyway. Oh, yeah, and we have, you know, Gorilla Glue for those situations where I don't need to use the E6000. And we've also got wiring and a screwdriver with multiple heads. So, anyway, may the force be with you and have a good day.